cop put her in handcuffs, but had no idea she was one of the highest-ranking Navy SEALs in the country. It was just past 11:30 p.m. when Tanya Rollins pulled into the BP off Interstate 65, right outside of Bowling Green, Kentucky. She had driven for hours from her cousin's place in Nashville, windows cracked, music low, just trying to breathe in the stillness. She wasn't in uniform, didn't want to be noticed, didn't want to explain who she was, what she did, or why she was always gone. Just a tank of gas, maybe a bottle of water, then home. She wore black joggers, a hoodie, and running shoes, hair pulled back, face clean. No makeup, no attitude, no noise. The gas station lot was nearly empty, just a dusty white sedan near the air pump and a pickup parked near the side. The lights buzzed overhead. She slid her card in, punched her zip code, and leaned against the car as the gas pumped. That's when the cruiser rolled in. Blue lights flicked on before the car even stopped moving. Tanya glanced up, confused. She didn't move, just stood there, one hand on the nozzle. The officer stepped out fast. White male, maybe late 30s. Stocky build, buzz cut. Flashlight already in hand, even though the station lights were bright enough to see a mile. His tone was sharp right out the gate. "Ma'am, is this your vehicle?" Tanya blinked. "Yes, I'm just getting gas." "I need you to step away from the vehicle." She didn't argue. She set the nozzle back, closed the tank, and stepped back with her hands visible. "What's going on, officer?" she asked calmly. "Just following up on a call," he replied, circling her car. "You seem suspicious." Suspicious. Tanya looked around. No one else was watching. No one had approached her. No clerk outside, just her, the gas pump, and a cop who already had a story in his head. She tried again. "I'm passing through. I rented this in Nashville. Do you need my license?" But he didn't answer. He was behind her now, shining his flashlight through the back window, then her front. Then he opened the driver door without asking. "Hey, what are you doing?" she asked, her voice still measured, but firm now. "I need to search the vehicle." "Without a warrant?" That did it. In a flash, he turned back. "Ma'am, I'm asking you to cooperate. Right now, you're being combative." Tanya froze. This is the moment. The line. Cross it and things spiral. "I'm not being combative. I'm asking a legal question." "Turn around." He grabbed her wrist. "Wait." He yanked the other one. Before she could speak again, her face was turned to the hood of her own rental car, wrists cuffed, cheek against cold metal. A pickup truck pulled out of the lot quietly. No one stepped in. No one asked a thing. Tanya didn't cry, didn't scream. She stared at the side mirror, watching her own reflection breathe. "You're being detained for suspicious behavior and failure to comply," Officer Kemp muttered, more to himself than to her. In the back of the cruiser, she said nothing. She watched Bowling Green blur past through the rear window, mind spinning not with fear, but with cold, calculated awareness. She'd seen worse. She'd been dropped behind enemy lines in northern Syria. She'd crawled through dry rivers in Djibouti. She'd faced men who'd rather die than surrender. But this was personal, and it was happening at home. But she had no idea that this gas station stop would turn into a courtroom war that would shake the whole town. The cruiser pulled into the Bowling Green police station just after midnight. Tanya sat still, cuffed, her head leaned back against the seat. Her wrists hurt, not from the pressure, but from the insult. Officer Kemp didn't say a word as he opened the back door. She stepped out on her own, calm, quiet. Inside, the fluorescent lights were harsh. A young black officer behind the desk glanced up, immediately clocking Tanya's athletic build and the way she carried herself. She didn't look like a criminal. She looked like someone used to calling the shots. "What's the charge?" the officer asked, tapping keys without looking away. "Resisting questioning, interfering with a lawful search," Kemp replied, trying to sound casual. Tanya didn't react. She just looked around the room, police posters, a vending machine buzzing near the corner, the tired smell of old coffee and dust. "Name?" the officer at the desk asked her directly. "Tanya Rollins." "Middle name?" "Danielle." "Date of birth?" She gave it. No hesitation, no attitude, just facts. "You ever been arrested before?" "No." The typing stopped for half a second, then resumed. A female officer was called in to pat her down. Standard procedure, they said. Tanya cooperated, raising her arms, keeping her expression neutral. You carrying anything sharp? No. You military? The woman asked, almost under her breath. Tanya glanced at her. Why do you ask? The officer shrugged, almost embarrassed. Your posture. Tanya gave her a small nod, then looked away. No reason to explain more. They took her prints, took her mugshot, put her in a holding cell with a metal bench, one toilet, and walls so close you could stretch your arms and touch both sides. She sat, crossed one leg over the other, closed her eyes. She'd been in tighter spots. Still, it wasn't the walls that pressed on her chest. It was knowing that this wasn't about what she'd done. It was about what he saw. A black woman, in the dark, with confidence. They let her sit in the cell for almost 2 hours before anyone said another word to her. At 2:04 a.m., a knock on the bars. You're being released. Charges are being filed. You'll be notified of your court date. She stood up. Where's my car? Impounded for further investigation, Officer Kemp answered from behind the hallway. You took my rental? He just smirked. Drive safe next time. No apology, no explanation. They gave her back her phone, her wallet, and her watch, but not the rental keys, not even a cab. Tanya stepped outside into the humid night, her breath catching in the heat. She walked down the block and sat on a bench in front of a closed laundromat, opened her phone. Her battery was low. She called her cousin. I need you to come get me. What happened? I'll explain later. The ride back was silent. Tanya stared out the window. Her cousin, Janelle, glanced over but didn't push. When they pulled into the driveway, Tanya paused before getting out. I need a lawyer, she said quietly. You sure? I'm very sure. But she wasn't just preparing to defend herself. She was preparing for war. Because something told her this cop didn't just lie on paper. He lied like it was nothing. 2 weeks later, Tanya walked through the courthouse doors wearing a tailored navy blue suit and a simple silver necklace. No medals, no sign of rank, just clean lines, polished shoes, and quiet strength. She wasn't there to impress. She was there to make something clear. She wasn't afraid. The courtroom was small, a local circuit courtroom on the second floor of a brick government building off Chestnut Street. The kind of place where traffic tickets and noise complaints got handled right alongside serious charges, because small towns didn't separate things the way big cities did. Her lawyer, Kendra Sloan, met her outside the courtroom. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, thick curls, and the kind of calm that came from knowing exactly what she was doing. You ready? Kendra asked, slipping a folder under her arm. I've been ready, Tanya said. They walked in together. A few rows of benches, wooden panels on the wall, a tired-looking judge with glasses low on his nose already reviewing a docket. Officer Kemp was already seated, wearing his pressed uniform and a confident smirk. He didn't look at Tanya. He didn't need to. He thought the work was already done. The judge called the case. Commonwealth of Kentucky versus Tanya Rollins. Kendra stood. Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty on all counts. The prosecutor, a man named Philip Dorsey, nodded slightly and adjusted his tie. We're prepared to move forward, Your Honor. Officer Kemp has submitted his report and body cam footage. Correction, Kendra interrupted. The department claims the footage from Officer Kemp's body cam is unavailable due to technical failure. The judge squinted. Unavailable? Dorsey cleared his throat. There was a malfunction, Your Honor. However, we have his written report and dash cam video. Tanya's eyes didn't flinch, but inside her pulse kicked. This was the beginning of something deeper than bad luck. Kemp sat straight, hands folded in his lap, eyes still avoiding hers. Kendra continued. We're filing a motion to obtain all internal communications regarding this so-called malfunction, and we're requesting access to the dash cam footage and dispatch logs from that night. Motion granted, the judge replied. Next hearing set for 3 weeks from today. They adjourned, but as people began filing out, Tanya stopped in the hallway. She turned to Kendra. They're covering something. Kendra nodded. Yeah, and it's not the first time Kemp's footage has gone missing. Tanya's brow furrowed. How many times? 4, that we know of. That's when it started to click. This wasn't about one bad night. This was about a pattern. A man who knew how to use the badge. A system that didn't ask enough questions. As they stepped outside into the sunlight, Tanya noticed a woman sitting on the courthouse steps. Early 30s, maybe younger. She held a baby on her hip and looked at Tanya like she recognized her, but not from the news. "You the one Kemp arrested at the gas station?" the woman asked. Tanya paused. "Yeah." The woman looked down at her child. "He pulled me over last year, told me I fit the description. Took me in, too. Said I was belligerent. I was just scared." Tanya's jaw tightened. "What happened?" "Dropped the charges. But it stayed on my record for 6 months. Lost my job over it." Kendra stepped closer. "Do you remember the date?" The woman nodded. "I still got the court papers." Tanya met her eyes. "Hold on to them. You might be hearing from us." They exchanged names. Charlene Knox. Another piece of the puzzle. But that day, standing on courthouse steps under the hot Kentucky sun, Tanya realized she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was about to drag a lot more truth into the light. A week after that first hearing, Tanya sat in her cousin's backyard with her sleeves rolled up and her phone in one hand. The morning air was sticky and birds cut through the silence. Her thumb hovered over the call button. She had scrolled past his name 3 times already. She finally hit dial. "Rollins?" came the familiar voice, steady, direct, no small talk. "Commander Jensen," Tanya answered. "I need a favor, and I hate asking." He didn't skip a beat. "You wouldn't be calling if it wasn't serious." She explained everything in short, clean lines. What happened at the gas station, the missing footage, the courtroom, the officer with a trail of malfunctions behind him. He listened without interruption. "I'm not asking for medals or headlines," she said. "I just need the truth on record. Who I am, what I've done. They're painting me like I'm a threat, like I lost control." He was quiet for a second. "I'll send the files. But I'm going one better," he said. "I'm coming to the hearing." She exhaled. "That's not necessary." "Yes, it is. You earned it. And people need to see who you really are." 2 days later, Tanya walked into the second hearing with her posture sharp and her lawyer by her side. This time, the courtroom had more people. Word had started to spread, first among friends, then on local Facebook pages. People were starting to ask why this woman, who had no criminal record, was being dragged through court over a gas station stop. In the back row, Commander Elias Jensen sat in full Navy dress uniform. His ribbons told stories without words, combat tours, humanitarian deployments. He stood up when she entered, gave a short nod. She didn't smile, but her jaw set a little firmer. The prosecutor opened by repeating Kemp's report. Same phrases, same script. Non-compliant. Refused to answer. Raised her voice. Kemp sat in the witness box again, reciting his version of events with the calmness of a man who had done this more than once. Kendra waited until he finished. Then she stood. "Officer Kemp, did you know Ms. Rollins is a Navy SEAL commander with 14 years of service?" He blinked. "No." "Did she tell you that during the stop?" "No." "Did you ask?" "No." She took a slow step forward. "Officer Kemp, would you consider it normal for someone trained to lead combat units in foreign war zones to threaten an officer during a traffic stop over gas?" Kemp hesitated. "I don't judge people by their resume." "Good. Let's judge you by your actions instead," Kendra replied. "You claim she was aggressive. Did she strike you?" "No." "Did she yell?" "She raised her tone." "Raised her tone," Kendra repeated flatly. "Was there anyone else around to verify that?" "No." "Because your body cam didn't work, again." "That's correct." She walked to the evidence screen and clicked to open a document. It was a scanned personnel file, Tanya's military history, deployment dates, commendations, training records, all signed and sealed by the Department of Defense. "This is Ms. Rollins' official record. Commander Elias Jensen is present in court today and prepared to testify on its authenticity." The judge turned to look. Jensen stood. "That record is accurate. She's one of the most disciplined officers I've ever worked with." Kendra continued. "So let's review. A woman with over a decade of experience managing high-risk operations was stopped at a gas station, said nothing threatening, made no physical move, and was arrested for appearing, too calm?" The courtroom was silent. Tanya sat still, not gloating, not angry, just present. The judge cleared his throat. "We'll take a brief recess before moving forward." Outside, Tanya stood by the steps again. She didn't need fresh air. She needed space to think. Janelle joined her with a bottle of water. "They looked real uncomfortable in there." "They should be," Tanya said quietly. Jensen walked up beside them. You didn't have to come, she told him again. Yes, I did. You were always the one stepping in for others. It's your turn. But Tanya knew the fight wasn't over. Not even close. Because men like Kemp didn't fold after one hearing. They doubled down. By the third hearing, Kemp's voice wasn't as confident. His lines were still rehearsed, but something in his eyes flickered, like he wasn't sure the script was holding anymore. Kendra came in, prepared. Over the past 2 weeks, she had filed open records requests, talked to past defendants, and tracked down 3 more people, all with stories that sounded eerily familiar. Late-night stops, vague charges, technical failures, and all dismissed quietly after court. One of them, a middle-aged white man named Gerald Simons, had been pulled over for a broken taillight. No record, no warrants. He was cuffed and booked for suspicious behavior. Charges dropped, footage lost. Another, Jayla Boston, a high school teacher, was arrested outside a Walgreens for loitering after arguing over a defective receipt printer. Footage gone. In court, Kendra laid it all out in a methodical rhythm. Your Honor, these cases show a pattern of behavior by Officer Kemp that cannot be ignored. Repeated arrests with missing footage. Repeated language used to justify detaining people with no cause. The judge raised an eyebrow. You're saying this officer has been systematically abusing his authority? Kendra didn't flinch. Yes, Your Honor, and my client isn't the first. Philip Dorsey, the prosecutor, tried to object, but the judge waved him off. We'll allow it. Continue. That's when she brought up dispatch logs from the night Tanya was arrested. Her voice slowed, clear, and calm. On the night of my client's arrest, Officer Kemp reported a suspicious individual at Pump 3, but there were no 911 calls made about her, no clerk complaint, no witness statement, nothing. He initiated the stop on his own. Kemp started shifting in his seat. Furthermore, Kendra said, tapping her papers, the gas station's internal surveillance system records 30 days of video, and they were willing to release that footage. She looked at Tanya, then at the judge. We have the tape. She pressed play on the courtroom monitor. There it was. Tanya standing still, pumping gas. No threats, no yelling, just quiet body language. Then the cruiser, then the stop, the cuffs. Not once did Tanya resist. In fact, she barely moved. The courtroom fell into a silence so thick it felt like no one was breathing. When the video ended, Kendra looked back at Kemp. You filed a false report, she said flatly. Did you think no one would double-check? Kemp looked at the judge, then the floor, then back at Kendra. That footage, I didn't know they had exterior video. You're trained to assume every business has cameras. He didn't answer. Kendra leaned closer. You don't get to guess your way through someone's life, officer. The judge leaned back in his chair, rubbing the bridge of his nose. I'll need time to review everything, he said. We'll reconvene next week. Tanya stood slowly. She felt the stares behind her. Not judgment, curiosity, awareness. The crowd was growing at every hearing. Journalists had started showing up. A young reporter from Louisville had even asked for an interview on the courthouse steps. She declined. This wasn't about a headline. Outside, as they walked toward the parking lot, Kendra finally exhaled. That tape? That was the nail. Maybe, Tanya said, but nails can be pulled. They'll fight back. Yeah, but now it's public. But public didn't always mean justice, and Tanya had learned long ago. The most dangerous enemy is the one who feels cornered. That night, Tanya sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open and a pile of notes beside her. The air smelled like reheated coffee and old sweat. She hadn't changed out of her clothes from court, didn't feel the need to. Janelle stood at the counter watching her. You're not sleeping again. I will, just not yet. You still think he's going to walk? Tanya looked up. I think the system wasn't built to stop him. I have to break it first. The next morning, Kendra filed a formal complaint with Internal Affairs. She attached every statement, video, and court transcript they had. She copied it to the state attorney general's office. 2 local reporters picked up the story within hours. By lunch, Tanya's name was trending on Kentucky Twitter. But with attention came pushback. The police department released a statement. We are aware of the allegations and are conducting an internal review. The local police union posted a vague defense of officers working under pressure and doing their best. Kemp? Still on duty. The next court date was packed. People stood in the hallway because the benches were full. Charlene Knox was there, so was Jayla. even Gerald. Tanya spotted a few off-duty officers too, standing in the back, arms crossed. Before the session began, Kemp walked past Tanya and said under his breath, "You think you've won something? You're nobody here." She didn't look at him, just said, "You ever been hunted, Kemp? I have, and they tried harder than you." He didn't respond. Inside, the judge wasted no time. After reviewing all evidence, including the surveillance footage and past reports, I find the defendant not guilty on all charges. The room held its breath for 1 second. Furthermore, I'm recommending a full investigation into Officer Kemp's conduct and the department's failure to address repeated complaints. Tanya didn't smile, didn't flinch. She just closed her folder and stood up. The moment wasn't joy. It was relief. Not for herself, but for the people behind her. Outside, a dozen cameras waited. Reporters called her name. Mics stretched out over shoulders. She raised a hand. "I won't be giving a statement right now. This isn't about me. It's about what happens next." One young reporter shouted, "Are you planning to sue the city?" She paused, thought about it. "I'm planning to hold people accountable, however far that needs to go." The crowd parted for her as she walked down the steps, Kendra at her side, her cousin waiting near the sidewalk, keys in hand. But one face stopped her. Commander Jensen again. Same posture, same expression. This time, he stepped forward and shook her hand in front of everyone. "You carried yourself with honor, just like always." "Thank you, sir." He nodded once, then walked away. That evening, Tanya sat on the porch, feet up on the railing, a cold bottle of water resting on her knee. Janelle sat beside her, phone in hand. "They're talking about you on the radio now, even got picked up by a station out in Cincinnati." "I didn't ask for any of this," Tanya muttered. "Nope, but maybe it asked for you." That sat heavy between them. Tanya looked out across the street. Kids were playing. 2 neighbors waved, the same ones who hadn't said anything 2 weeks ago. Funny how fast silence turns into recognition. Her phone buzzed, a text from Kendra. "You changed something today, don't forget it." Tanya leaned her head back against the chair. She hadn't planned to fight a war in her own backyard, but when the fight came to her, she did what she'd always done, stand her ground and never blink. But now came the hardest part, making sure the next woman didn't have to fight this battle at all. 2 months later, Officer Bradley Kemp was placed on administrative leave, pending an internal affairs investigation. No charges, yet. But the whispers in the department had changed. He wasn't untouchable anymore. The city council scheduled a public forum. Tanya was invited to speak. She almost didn't go. She wasn't a politician, and she hated podiums. But Janelle looked her dead in the eye and said, "You walked through fire in silence. Maybe it's time they hear your voice." So she went. The community center gym was packed. Folding chairs, people standing against the walls, camera crews along the back. Tanya stood at the front in jeans and a plain black shirt. No script, no speech, just her hands gripping the mic stand. Her voice was steady. "I didn't come here tonight because I wanted attention. I came here because something broke, and it didn't start with me. I was arrested for pumping gas, not because I was loud, not because I was dangerous, but because someone saw me and made a decision based on what they thought they saw." She scanned the room. Some nodded. Some looked uncomfortable. "I've served my country for 14 years, led missions overseas, seen real danger, real threats. What happened to me wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern, and I'm not the only one. You've heard from others. You've seen the footage. You know the truth now." A woman in the crowd shouted, "What do we do about it?" Tanya held her stare. Start by believing people, then hold the right folks accountable. And stop pretending this only happens in other places. It happened right here. The room erupted in applause, not a standing ovation, just something quieter, real, honest. That night, Tanya finally let herself rest. No more lawyers, no more hearings. She took her boots off and sat barefoot on the floor in Janelle's living room, sipping hot tea and watching the ceiling fan spin. "You good?" Janelle asked from the couch. Tanya gave a slow nod. "Yeah, for the first time in a while, I think I am." Her phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail from Charlene Knox. "I just wanted to say thank you. Because of what you did, they reopened my case. They're clearing my record. Then another message, this one from Jayla. My students were watching. I told them I knew you. One of the girls cried, said she never knew someone like us could win like that. Tanya listened, then put the phone face down on the floor. She didn't need to reply. Not tonight. She closed her eyes and thought about that gas station, about the moment Kemp grabbed her wrist, about the long walk from the courtroom, through the courthouse doors, past the cameras, and into a version of her life she never asked for, but didn't back away from. That's the thing about people like Tanya. They don't run from storms. They study the wind, they find their footing, and then they walk straight through. Because dignity doesn't shrink for anyone. Not for uniforms, not for liars, not for fear. If Tanya's story made you pause even for a second, ask yourself why. Ask how often it happens in your city, your neighborhood, your gas station. Then talk about it. Speak up when it counts. Be the one who notices, who records, who tells the truth when others look away. And if you've been through something like this, know that you're not alone. You don't need a badge or a uniform to demand respect. You just need to stand firm, even if your voice shakes, because the moment we stop pretending it's rare is the moment we start making it stop.